The call interrupted my presentation to 20 executives. My phone, supposed to be on silent, lit up with Brittany's face. My ex-husband's wife, whose contact photo I intentionally set as the most unflattering screenshot I could find from her Instagram. I quickly declined. But she immediately called again, then again and again. By the fourth ring, my CO was giving me a concerned look. I mouthed, "Sorry," and stepped out of the conference room. Whatever Brittany was up to had better be worth risking my biggest pitch yet. Finally, I answered without preamble. "Melissa needs to be out by the end of the month," Brittany announced, her voice syrupy with that fake sweetness she reserved for when she felt she was in control. "Out of what?" I pressed. "Her room. The house. We need the space." I couldn't help but laugh. "Are you high? She lives there. It's in the custody agreement." "Not anymore. I'm pregnant, with a real baby. A planned baby. David's actual child." The words hit me like ice water. A real baby. David's actual child. As if Melissa, our daughter, his daughter, was some kind of trial run that didn't matter. "Melissa is David's actual child," I said slowly, each word fueled by rising rage. "You know what I mean? A child from his real marriage. His forever family. Your daughter has 30 days to move out. I've already got a decorator coming next week to start her nursery. She was 15, living in that house for 10 years. I couldn't believe she thought she could just be erased like a piece of furniture to be redecorated. "You can't just," I started. "I can and I will," Brittany interrupted, her tone dismissive. "This is my house now. My family. And there's no room for baggage from David's mistake." He called my daughter a mistake. "Put David on the phone," I demanded. He was at work, but he'd agree with me. It was time Melissa moved in with him full-time anyway. Teenagers need their mothers. "He's at work," Brittany said with exaggerated patience, as if I was slow. "He agrees. Melissa should live with him. It's better for her." "She's not being kicked out," Brittany insisted, sounding like she was talking to a slow child. "We're just transitioning her to a more appropriate living situation. We'll still see her for holidays." "Maybe," I said calmly. "I'm hanging up now. I'm calling my lawyer, and you're about to learn how badly you screwed up." "Lawyers can't change biology, Sarah," she sneered. "I'm carrying David's real child. Your daughter is just..." I cut her off and immediately called Janet Morrison, the shark lawyer who'd handled my divorce years ago. "Janet, remember that clause you insisted on about maintaining Melissa's room and living arrangements? The housing stability clause." "Of course. Why?" "Brittany's pregnant and wants to kick Melissa out to make room for her new baby." There was a heavy silence on the line. Janet's voice turned predatory. "She called Melissa baggage from David's mistake and said she needs to make room for his real child." "Did you record the call?" "No, but she left a voicemail earlier today saying the same thing." "Forward it to me. Start documenting everything. Texts, emails, communications. We're about to remind David why that clause exists." As I sat in my car in the parking garage trying to process what had just happened, my phone buzzed. A message from Melissa. "Why is Brittany measuring my room? He says I need to start packing." My heart sank. She was at school, probably trying to focus on her geometry class, while her stepmother plotted to displace her. "Don't pack anything," I texted back. "I'm handling this. You're not going anywhere." Brittany lied. "You're staying put." "I promise." I forwarded the conversation to Janet and called David's office. His assistant, Paula, picked up on the second ring. "Hi Paula, it's Sarah. I need to speak to David urgently." "Oh, hi Sarah. He's in meetings all day. Can I take a message?" "Tell him his wife is trying to evict our daughter. He has 1 hour to call me before I file an emergency custody motion." Paula gasped. "She's doing what?" "Exactly. 1 hour." 45 minutes later my phone rang. It was David. "Sarah, what's this about an emergency motion?" "Your wife informed me Melissa has 30 days to vacate her room because you're having a real baby," I said, voice steady but furious. "She said she's excited about the baby and maybe they'll need to adjust the custody arrangement." "Adjusting? She's measuring Melissa's room for a nursery?" "She called our daughter a mistake," I snapped. "David, she said this new baby is your actual child. That's what she told me." Silence. "Then, that's not right. Check my text to Paula. I sent the voicemail where she says exactly that." More silence. I could see him rubbing his temples the way he always did when confronted with Brittany's manipulations. "She's my secretary," he finally said. "She's been convinced I deserve someone who understands my ambitions." Now 8 years later I saw exactly what kind of person Brittany was. "I'll talk to her," he said finally. "No," I replied sharply. "Let me remind you what Clause 14b of our custody agreement states. The child shall maintain her bedroom in both households until she's 18 or graduates high school. Any attempt to change that immediately triggers review and possible custody revision. Sarah, your wife has 24 hours to apologize to Melissa and confirm in writing that her room remains hers, or I'll file for full custody based on violation of the agreement and a hostile environment," he warned. "You can't just." "I can and I will," I cut him off. "You chose Brittany over your family once. Don't do it again with Melissa." I hung up, my heart pounding, and returned to my presentation, somehow managing to close the deal despite my fury. My colleagues congratulated me, but I couldn't focus. All I could think about was Melissa sitting in her classroom, wondering if she was about to lose her home. Later that evening I drove to pick her up. She came out looking smaller than her 15 years, shoulders hunched, eyes red. "Mom," she whispered, climbing in. "I know, baby. I know it's your week," I said gently. "But we need to talk about Brittany's baby. About you. About your home. Nothing's changing, except we're going to make sure you know how much you're loved." She burst into tears. "Brittany says I should be happy to live with you full-time, that it's weird for a teenager to live with her dad, and once the baby's here they'll focus on their real family. But you are my real family. And you're not going anywhere you don't want to go. Legally," I added softly, "this house remains your home as long as you want it." We went for ice cream, a rare treat on a weekday, talking about school, friends, a boy who played guitar. Simple, normal teenage things Brittany wanted to undo because she saw Melissa as disposable. That night my phone exploded with messages from David. "Brittany's upset. She says you're being vindictive. Can we discuss this rationally? This is between adults. Don't involve Melissa." That last message made my blood boil. I immediately called him. "Don't involve Melissa," I said sharply. "Your wife is trying to throw her out of her home, and you're telling me not to involve her?" "She's not throwing her out," he insisted. "Just reorganizing. The baby needs a nursery. Then convert your office or Brittany's craft room or any of the 4 bedrooms in that mansion you bought to impress her," I snapped. "Melissa's room is her home. Her height marks are on the door frame. Her glow-in-the-dark stars are still on the ceiling from when she was 6. That's her space. She's lived there for 10 years. You can't just erase her." Brittany, I realized, had made her choice. And I would fight for my daughter's right to stay where she belonged, home that she's not a piece of furniture you can move around when it suits you. She's a person, someone you promised to give a stable, loving home. You're being dramatic and you're hiding behind cowardice. Stand up to your wife or you risk losing your daughter. The choice is yours. The next morning Janet called with an update. "David's lawyer reached out," she said. "They want to negotiate." "There's nothing to negotiate," I replied. "The custody agreement is crystal clear." But then she added, "Here's the interesting part." I did some digging. Brittany posted in a private Facebook group about dealing with stepchildren. Want to hear what she wrote? I nodded. She finally announced she's pregnant with her first real baby. Said she can finally stop pretending that the baggage from her husband's first marriage is hers. She's counting down the days until she can turn the best room in the house into a nursery. Sometimes you have to play the long game. Ladies, she planned this for months. I felt my stomach turn. She's been planning this for months, maybe even years. Do you have screenshots? Every single one, Janet confirmed, including comments where she talks about manipulating David into agreeing by threatening to leave if he didn't prioritize their real family. A sick feeling washed over me. Brittany had been scheming to kick out my daughter for a long time, maybe 2 years, possibly more. That night I sat Melissa down with her favorite Chinese takeout and some hard truths. "I need to tell you something," I said gently. "It's going to hurt." She put down her chopsticks, eyes wary. "They don't want you anymore," she whispered. "Your dad still wants me, right?" "He does," I assured her. "He's just confused right now. But Brittany's been planning this for a while. It's not about you. It's about her." Melissa looked down. She's always hated me, she said quietly. When Dad's around, she's nice. But when he's not, she says things like I remind her that Dad had a life before me, that she can't wait until I'm old enough to leave. She's always hated me. My heart shattered. You could never ruin anything, I told her, voice thick with emotion. You're the best thing that ever happened to me and your dad. Then she asked, then why is it so easy for him to choose her? I had no answer. The next day, Janet filed a motion, not just to enforce the custody agreement, but to seek full custody based on emotional abuse and breach of court orders. The evidence was mounting, her Facebook posts, voicemail, texts, all pointing to her long-term plan to displace Melissa. Within an hour, David called, panic evident in his voice. Sarah, please, he begged. We can work this out without courts. We had an agreement. Your wife violated it, I interrupted. And she's been planning this for a long time. Those posts prove it. She's been talking about getting rid of Melissa for years. He stammered. Brittany will apologize. He was just venting. Those were private thoughts. They're not private anymore, I snapped. And they show her true intentions. He hesitated, then finally said, I'll talk to her. You need to do more than talk, I warned. You need to stand up for your daughter. Remind the court what the custody clause says. Melissa's room is her home until she turns 18 or graduates. Any attempt to change that is a breach of the agreement. He agreed to tell the court everything, and 2 weeks later the hearing took place. David admitted that he'd allowed Brittany to emotionally abuse Melissa, that he'd prioritized his new relationship over his daughter's well-being, and that he'd failed her as a father. The judge, Judge Martinez, listened carefully and then made a ruling. Melissa would choose where she wanted to live and when. David would pay for therapy, and any future romantic partners would undergo background checks and meet with a family therapist before being introduced to Melissa. Mr. Peterson, the judge said firmly, your daughter is not baggage from a previous relationship. She's a human being who deserves a father who puts her first, always. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, David replied, voice trembling. I hope so, the judge said. Because you won't get another chance to fail her. 6 months later, Melissa's arrangements were different but better. She stayed with me during the week, closer to her school and activities, and spent weekends with David, who was now in therapy himself, learning to be the father she deserved. Meanwhile, Brittany had the baby, a boy. David received pictures but no contact. Brittany sent court-ordered updates, but that was all. Sometimes I wondered if she spun her own story, portraying herself as the victim of a vindictive ex-wife who refused to let her have her dream nursery. But I had my daughter safe, loved, and knowing she was nobody's second choice. Her room, whether at my place or David's, was hers for as long as she needed it. That custody clause Janet fought for 8 years ago saved us. But more than that, it taught Melissa her worth, that she's worth fighting for. That no one, not even a parent, has the right to treat her as disposable. And Brittany? She learned that real children aren't defined by biology or birth order. They're defined by love, commitment, and the willingness to fight for them, even against those who should have protected them all along.